1971, he took initiation from Srila Prabhupada ji. I think most of us might not be born during that time. That time Srila Prabhupada gave initiation to Maharaj ji. So, huh? Your father also might not be born during that time, everybody is saying. So yeah, so it's a great fortune that he is here. He travels a lot in various countries and making people Krishna conscious, exactly following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada ji. He is a very strict sadhaka about his own self, very inspiring example he sets in front of others. He is an initiating spiritual master also in ISKCON, and we are grateful and indebted to him for sparing his valuable time in spite of not keeping well and giving his time for all of us. Maharaj, this is Bace, Bhakti Vedanta Academy for Culture and Education, wherein we have a capacity 3-story building. This building is owned by ISKCON, and study students, they stay here and they practice Krishna consciousness. Morning they get up and chant here. They have Sattvic Prasadam, we have cooked. They take Prasadam here. Daytime they go to colleges, some of them are working, they go to corporate companies. And in the evening we have reading books by Srila Prabhupada ji, we have some kirtan, and then they partake dinner also. And we have a record that many of the students, they have topped in their academics as well here. The very reputed college, KK College of Engineering is here. I am passed out from the same college. And the principal has also visited and appreciated our efforts here for the students. So let us welcome Maharaj ji to this base by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bol! So thank you all of you for sparing your time and coming for this session, special session. And thank you Maharaj ji for sparing your valuable time as well.
Hare Krishna.
Some kirtan or start?
I'll just start. Om Jnana Timarandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Militanena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vaevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Namaham Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschacha Deshatari Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I'm very glad to meet all of you here this evening. I can see you're all youth. You're not very old, unlike me. I had the opportunity, however, as a young man, I did have the opportunity to come in contact with the Krishna consciousness movement. As you heard, I met the devotees and I was initiated by Srila Prabhupada in 1971. At that time, I just graduated from college. I studied engineering and had my Bachelor of Science, and I'd come to London. I was living in London when I purchased a Krishna book. And so that was the beginning of the change in my life. I took the book home, showed it to my friend, and he said, I have a book by the same person. And this is something really mystical, because in those days, 1971, there were very few books. There were very few books published, but somehow he had one, and I brought home the Krishna book, and we were really impressed to see these books written by Swamiji coming from India. So we found out that the Swamiji was the Swami of the Hare Krishna movement. And they had opened a temple in London, maybe about 1 or 2 years ago, somewhere between 1 and 2 years, the temple had been opened in London. And they had installed also Radha and Krishna. So it was, it moved me and my friend, both of us, we went to the temple. We had to find out more. We had to see what was going on. And it was a wonderful surprise for us to see the young people who were living there and how they were dedicating themselves to propagating Krishna consciousness. They were living simply, and they were going out every day doing Harinam Sankirtan in the streets of central London. And at the same time, they would try to distribute literature. So in those days, we were very new. But we were quite famous also. Because in London, you know, as maybe you know, there was this one famous, very famous musician who was a member of the Beatles group. His name was George Harrison, and he had taken an active interest in Hare Krishna. And that certainly helped a lot. And the devotees had made a recording of the Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna mantra. So when I was a student, I had seen on television the devotees there on television, on the national television. They were singing the Hare Krishna mantra, and it was very impressive. You know, it was a very wonderful vibration. In fact, the music was so powerful that it became popular all over Europe. Many countries in Europe, they all became very much impressed with this chanting, and they would play it regularly on the radio and on television. So in this way we had become quite famous. So I started to go to the temple and hear about Krishna consciousness. Every evening the devotees would give a class on the Bhagavad Gita. Now, as a student, we had to take humanities subject. You know, I studied engineering, but we had to also take a humanities subject. And one of the subjects which we had was Bhagavad Gita. And it was taught by someone who was a Christian priest. He was teaching the Bhagavad Gita. So this was my first contact with the Bhagavad Gita. And then I go to the Hare Krishna temple, and every evening they're having Bhagavad Gita classes. But a little different. The person giving class here at the temple was a very young man. And he was not very well educated, you know, he wasn't a graduate or anything, but he was very sincere, and he would speak about karma and reincarnation and so on. So coming to the Krishna Conscious Temple, I got a good basis in the philosophy. And I would come almost every evening to the temple, because every evening they would have arti, and during the arti there would be ecstatic kirtan, and we would chant and dance in great ecstasy. This was customary in our Krishna conscious temples in those days. You know, we were young and we were carefree and we enjoyed chanting and dancing. It was ecstasy. We would enter into the mantra. The loud chanting of the mantra would fill our lungs. And we would enjoy dancing and chanting, and then we would take some simple prasadam. And at the same time, one devotee would try to speak the Bhagavad Gita. So this was my introduction to Krishna consciousness. So I was coming regularly. I was working in South London, and I was traveling into central London to go to the temple. So the devotee said to me after a couple of weeks, he saw I was coming regularly. He said, you know, you can stay overnight with us. You know, just like you. You're all staying, right? Many of you are staying here overnight, right? So they told me also, he said, you know, you can stay overnight. I said, I don't know if I can get up at the time you go. You know, they wake up. Devotees like to wake up early. I said, oh, I don't know if I can do that, you know. And anyway, they said, you try, come and stay with us, and, you know, and you can go to work during the daytime, just like some of you are doing, right? Some of you are going to work, you stay here, but you go to work, you have a job. So I was going to work, and staying there. They'd keep me prasadam every night. I'd come home from work and I'd take prasadam. So I was doing this for a little while, not very long. And after a little while, then they said to me, you know, why don't you just give up that job? So, you know, I thought, yeah, why not? They said, we need people here. Actually, one of the things which we were doing to support the temple in those days, because we didn't have a congregation, we didn't have people donating, we were supporting the temple ourselves by distributing books. So one of the things which we had done, we had begun an incense business, and we would make incense. Now this was London, early, it was 1970, 71. Incense was very popular, and we would make a special kind of incense which attracted people with strawberry flavor, cherry flavor, lemon flavor, like this very strong, fragrant, very strong scents. And it was popular. And we had a nice package with Krishna on the packet, and on the packet we also had an invitation to come to the temple and take part in sunrise meditation. And it said there's a special festival every Sunday, you can come. And so like that, this is how we were supporting the temple in those days. We were making the devotees ourselves would make the incense. We wouldn't roll it, but we'd dip it into oil. We'd dip it into oil and then dry it and then package it and distribute it. So when I became a devotee, they told me, you can take charge of the incense business, because I had some experience working in a company. The other devotees, you know, they were not so much able to, they had no experience in that kind of thing. Anyway, so they put me in charge of making the incense and making sure all the devotees helped. And we'd make incense, and we also made little bottles of oil, essential oils, and people would like to purchase the oils. Then this way, somehow we were managing to support the temple. But it was not easy, it was difficult, you know. We were, because more and more people were coming to join the temple. And people were coming, they didn't have any money. You know, people were coming to become devotees, and we had to take care of them and give them food and shelter. So it became a little difficult, but still we managed. This was the beginning of our Krishna consciousness movement in London. And if you go there today, you'll see how nicely it has developed, over like more than 50 years. We have a beautiful big manor which was donated by George Harrison, and we have temples in different parts of London as well. People coming in different. We have a nice restaurant, vegetarian restaurant, Govinda's, where the devotees are working, and the public come and enjoy the food there. And we have regular programs going on. We even have a lunchtime program. People can come and sit there in the temple, and we will give them a talk about Krishna consciousness. And then we will distribute a simple vegetarian lunch to them. Usually it's free of charge. Like this, we're doing these kind of programs. We have a lot of programs, food distribution, going to the different universities and distributing prasadam there to the students. So our Krishna consciousness movement has expanded a lot, tremendously, from the beginning days. However, I have to admit, the early days were very enjoyable, very relishable. Being with the devotees, chanting and dancing, and going out and giving Krishna consciousness to people everywhere. Krishna is in everyone's heart. So devotees of Krishna are everywhere. And Srila Prabhupada told us, so you just have to go and find them. Sorry, I'm having this problem with my throat. Anyway, the devotees of Krishna are everywhere, and we have to find them. Just like you've all come to Krishna consciousness, somehow, you met devotees and you've come in contact. And now you're nourishing your bhakti, your devotion, your kripa. So you're fortunate. Of course, you've come a bit later in life. According to scripture, Prahlad Maharaj says, Kumar Acharya Prabno Dharmam Bhagavatam Iha. That from the age of Kumar. Kumar means 5 years old, under 5 years. So none of you are in that category. But that is the best time to begin Krishna consciousness. Like you, I also came to Krishna consciousness I was 21, and I thought, oh, I've come so late. If only I had come earlier in my life. I'd spent so much time studying mundane knowledge, Laplace transformations, Fourier analysis, these kinds of things, I spent a lot of time doing these kinds of things. And when I came to Krishna consciousness and I realized how much I had wasted my time learning all this mundane knowledge, which is really not very valuable. But coming to Krishna consciousness, I felt thankful that better late than never. So I have come to Krishna. I should dedicate my life. And Srila Prabhupada also told me, he said, you've spent many lifetimes enjoying your senses in the material world. So he said, now you give this one life to Krishna and you will not regret it. So this is the idea that we want to dedicate our life in the service of Krishna. We have many things to do in life. Generally, they're all centered around 4 activities: eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This is the business of the material world. But this is all the animal propensities. You see, human life is meant for something more than just these things. Of course, eating and sleeping, they go on, mating and defending. We don't say you have to stop these things, but we do need to regulate them and control them. But the real business of life is to understand our own self, to achieve self-realization, to know who I am and why I am here. This is very important for us. So Krishna consciousness, of course, gives us the answer to all of these questions. As a young person, I had a lot of questions like that. And that's why I came to Krishna consciousness. I wanted to know, what is the purpose of life? Why are we here? Everybody's going to die. It's like, we're like people, you know, in the jail, they have people who are sentenced to death. And they're just waiting for the jailer to come, and they'll take you and put a rope around your neck and hang you. And so, the same way, here in this material world, our situation is not very much different. We're here in this material world with a material body, and we know that we have to die. We know one day we're going to leave the body. Sometimes people leave the body very early. We had one young man, he became a devotee, and just in a short time later, somehow he got a very bad disease, and he died and left the body. It was a good fortune that he surrendered to Krishna. So, just imagine if he had not surrendered to Krishna, what would have been his situation? But the human life is very special. The human body, it's very rare. There are so many species of life, 884 lakh, and only 4 lakh are humans. And among the humans, only a very few get the association of devotees. And in the association of devotees, we can cross over the ocean of birth and death. So the human life is something which we do value. But we have to know how to value it. If we simply waste it just cultivating the knowledge of the material world without a spiritual balance, then all of this material knowledge at the end of life will be useless. It's not going to help us to achieve a better destination. So having obtained the human life and having the association of devotees, we want to take advantage of that association to cross over the ocean of material existence. This is our real business. Coming to the human form of life, don't miss the opportunity. If we have to come back again, then it means we failed. We have one book, maybe you've read it, Coming Back, The Science of Reincarnation. Did any of you read it? No? Anyway, the last chapter in the book is called Don't Come Back. Because if we come back again, means we failed in our human life. We come back again, we have to take birth again and again. Take birth again. You have to go to school again, you have to go to college again, you have to study again, you have to get married. So many. That's if you have a human body. We may not be so fortunate to get the human body. We can also get the lower body in the lower species of life. We can become an animal or even a plant like a tree and stand. So we don't want to waste this opportunity, having the human life. We want to use it very carefully. Of course, you have to do things, you have to meet your responsibilities to family, to society and so on. But don't neglect the spiritual part of life. We have to cultivate both, side by side. We give the example that in India, the train runs on 2 tracks. Now when the tracks are not level, then the train will turn over. So the same way, we have the material and the spiritual. You want to keep the tracks level to avoid turning over. If we go too much on the material, it can be a problem. Neglect the spiritual. And if we go too much on the spiritual side prematurely, then it can also lead to problems. So we have to be ready to enter into the spiritual side of life. And usually that comes later in life. You know, the Vedas describe 4 different ashrams. There's a student life, and then there's the grihastha, the married life, and then there's the retired life. And finally, there is the renounced life. So, most people come to the family life, and then they forget about the next part, which is retired life. They retire from the job, but they don't retire from their material activities. The retirement from the material is meant to give you more time to cultivate your spiritual nature. More time to take up spiritual practice, to chant and to read the books, to read the Shastra. This is how we're meant to spend retired life. Of course, people today, they don't know that. They're more like Dhritarashtra. You know Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata? Yeah. Dhritarashtra, he speaks the first verse in the Bhagavad Gita, right? What did my sons and the sons of Pandu do, being desirous to fight? So he's speaking about his sons. He's very much in the bodily concept of life. He's only thinking about his sons. He's not thinking about others. So that's the bodily condition. And Dhritarashtra was in that condition almost even after all of his sons had been killed in the battle of Kurukshetra. Dhritarashtra was living in the home of the Pandavas. And Vidura came there, fortunately. Vidura, who was the brother of Dhritarashtra, he came there and he enlightened Dhritarashtra. He said, you were born blind, and you're blind materially, you're blind also spiritually. You don't see your situation, how degrading it is. That you are eating the remnants of Bhima, and Bhima was the one who killed all of your sons, and now you're living in his home and eating the remnants of his food. And Vidura was pointing out that this is terrible, this is disgraceful, how you could live like this. And Dhritarashtra was affected. By the grace of Vidura, he left home. He went to the forest. And of course, Madri also followed him. And Dhritarashtra went into the forest, and there in the forest he gave up his life. And Madri also entered into the fire of the body of her husband. So it was a lot better that Dhritarashtra could do that rather than just stay at home. And Srila Prabhupada said, 5,000 years ago there was one Dhritarashtra. But today there's a Dhritarashtra in every home. We don't want to be like Dhritarashtra, do we? I hope not. Anyway, spiritual life it's something, it's serious, it's a serious business, you know. It's, at the same time, it's joyful. We have to understand, it's a necessity. We have to do these things. We have to take up this practice of chanting the holy name and hearing the Bhagavad Gita, studying these. It's not a waste of time. It's the most valuable thing. Valuable because in the sense that whatever is our consciousness at the end of life, it will determine where we're going to go in the next life. Bhagavad Gita says, Antakale chamameva smaranutva kalevaram. One who can remember Lord Krishna at the end of life, then they can go to be with Krishna. They can attain the supreme destination. But if we are only thinking about money, spend our whole time only meditating how to make more money, how to improve my social condition, you know, all of these things are determined according to the law of karma. According to our karma, we're destined to have certain enjoyments and certain sufferings. In one sense, you have good karma because you're getting education and because you're associating with devotees. So this is very good. It's a good karma. But we have to take advantage to go on from there, to plant more seeds for the future by taking up Krishna consciousness seriously, by chanting the Mahamantra regularly, and by associating with the devotees, and appreciating Krishna consciousness, that is something very valuable for us. We have the opportunity to do something with this life. And if we waste it on sense gratification, then that sense gratification, that is there even for the animals which eat stew. Just like the pig. You know, if you offer the pig some halava, the pig will say, "Oh no, give me some stew." Yeah. This is the thinking of the pig. In the same way, some people are in the similar mentality to the animals like the pig. They want the lower pleasure. They don't want the higher pleasure. There's a higher pleasure. Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna speaks about the higher taste. Param drisva nivartate, the higher taste. So do you want the higher taste, or do you want the taste of the pigs and the dogs? What is their taste, you know? No, naturally we will want the higher taste. We want the higher things in life. So we have to understand that we can get the higher things in life by cultivating Krishna consciousness, by using our time to be a devotee. Now, being a devotee doesn't mean you have to give up your family or give up your job. You can continue with these things. There's no harm. Many devotees also have jobs and have families. But we understand that they are also devotees. And devotee means one who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. We don't recognize devotees just by the color of their cloth or their haircut. These things, it's all external. The devotee is understood by their consciousness, that they regularly chant the Hare Krishna mantra, and they take pleasure in discussing topics of Krishna. So Krishna consciousness is a science. Just like many of you are scientists, you're training in science. So Krishna consciousness is a spiritual science. Science means there's a process. You follow a particular process in certain conditions and you will get a certain result. In the same way with Krishna consciousness, we practice the principles, we follow, we do the different activities, and we will get the result. The result is purification of heart. It begins with the purification of heart. And then it goes on. It continues, it doesn't stop there. Chanting Hare Krishna doesn't just only take away our sinful reactions. It doesn't just only give us liberation from material existence. Chanting Hare Krishna brings us to the highest level, that we can awaken our dormant love for the Supreme Lord. Love of God, Krishna Prem. Mahaprabhu said, Prem Punarto Mahan. The goal of life is to develop love of God. So we are appealing to all of you here this evening. We want all of you to take this Krishna consciousness very seriously and try to practice. So we will ask, is there some questions, anything? You have any doubts? Any problems? You can bring them up. I'd like to hear from you. You're all intelligent people, and Srila Prabhupada told us intelligent people will have questions. Yes? So? Yes, Prabhu?
Many times we have observed that we have to study Prabhupada books also, and we have to study our regular study also. So enthusiasm for both the things is quite a times fluctuating. Like many times we feel enthusiastic for reading Prabhupada books, but that might last for a couple of days or a couple of hours. And the same is the case with our regular study books that we are studying. But many times enthusiasm also goes down. So how can we have a regular faith in both the things? Like we have to study the books also.
Yes, you're right. You have to study. You have to study both. So, it's a question of controlling the mind. We have to focus our mind and understand. Just like I know myself, when you study something, you can. There's a limit to how much you can study and how much you can get something done. Sometimes, often, you may be studying and nothing seems to be going in. Nothing is actually getting, you're not accomplishing anything. So we have to recognize that problem, that at a certain point we become saturated. And we have to, at that time, get the relief by taking up the spiritual side. You see, we have to balance the two. If it's all just one thing, then it won't be very good. You're just studying all the time the science and the engineering. It won't be so meaningful. But if we mix the two, sometimes studying the spiritual science and other times studying the material science, then it will be more value. Our studying will be more effective like that when we learn to balance the two. So chanting Hare Krishna is also very important for us. Not just only reading the books, but chanting the Maha Mantra. It's very helpful for us. You may say, oh, it's a waste of time. But if you do this chanting regularly and do it with care, properly, follow the rules, then you'll see that your own studying becomes better, that you'll be able to absorb and control your mind much better. Chanting Hare Krishna mantra gives you that power to control your mind, to focus your mind, and to steady it on a particular topic. So it's certainly of value in your own studies. It will help you to have that concentration which you need to do your studies. So chanting Hare Krishna is something which we like to do usually first thing after waking up in the morning and bathing. We like to take some time to do japa, to chant the holy name. We find the devotees like to, the more they practice, the earlier they like to wake up in the morning and take part in the chanting. You know, often student life, we stay up very late, get up late. You know, the whole student life is a bit like that. Staying up late, sometimes watching movies, and sometimes playing cards and things, wasting a lot of time. But if you practice Krishna consciousness, then we take care to avoid these kind of things, and we use our time. You know, we like to take advantage of the morning hours. The morning hours, our mind is more fresh, and we're more able to focus and to do things. So the best thing you can do is to chant Hare Krishna, and after chanting Hare Krishna, then you can use your mind, turn your mind to your material studies. And you'll see that your power of memory and ability to understand and see things clearly is more effective after you've chanted the Maha Mantra. The Maha Mantra helps to clear the mind and purify the consciousness. And Lord Krishna is in the heart, and He helps us to understand even subject matters which are difficult for us to understand. So we want to balance the material and the spiritual, right? You don't want to neglect. You have to do some things, and you have work to do, material. You have to study, exams and so on. Things. But Lord Krishna is there, and He helps the devotee. He helps devotees in their endeavor. When Lord Krishna sees the sincere efforts of someone to become Krishna conscious, Lord Krishna certainly helps him. So we should have faith in the words of Lord Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita, and in this way we should do our work. Take some time, reading Bhagavad Gita can also be something, you can read so much and maybe not so much goes in. So you don't have to read a lot. You can read a sloka, 1 or 2 slokas, and focus on it. You don't have to go, it's not that we're just reading a book like a novel. Reading the Bhagavad Gita, it's it's not just simply philosophy, but it's a way of life. It's a process by which we can apply spiritual teachings into our life. to give us the consciousness to overcome all the obstacles which we may face. Obstacles which we may face. For example, people die. You get relatives, somebody in your family, they have some trouble, somebody dies. You have to be able to handle these things. We should be able to handle these things with the help of the Bhagavad Gita to understand the nature of life. The death means the change of a body. Change of a body. Change of a body. That is death. The Bhagavad Gita helps us to see life as in its reality. The life which we have is just, well, it's eternal because the soul is eternal, but the body is not eternal. The body takes birth and the body also dies. We have to prepare. We have to understand when somebody dies in our family what happened. That they've given up the body, they've gone off to they take another body somewhere. As I said, coming back. They come back, take another body. Of course, ideally, we want to come, we don't want to come back. We want to go on, to go into the spiritual world, into the kingdom of the gods, into the heaven, the divine abode, like that. Not everybody can go there, but at least we want to do something to have a better life than the life of the cats or the dogs. If you have to become a dog in the next life, it is not very good. Right? We want to make sure that doesn't happen to us. And in order to avoid that, we need to cultivate Krishna consciousness, meaning hearing and chanting. At the same time, we cultivate also our material science. We study, we do what we have to do. But a balance between the two. Keep the two connected. Don't go too much to one side. Keep a balance. People work. People get so much attached to working. But we have to recognize there's a limit to how much we can work. When we work too much, you get nothing done. So take some time to become Krishna conscious. Make use of our time. All right? Another question? Yes, Prabhu?
Most of the people know what is wrong and what is right, but still they fall for a wrong things. For example, drinking, smoking and gambling is wrong, but they still fall for it. So how to stop avoiding such short temptations?
How do we stop?
Short temptations. How to stop avoiding short temptations?
Avoiding what, chanting?
Avoiding short temptations.
Oh, like smoking and drinking.
No, they fall for it. So it is because of short temptations. So how to avoid these short temptations?
Well, as I said, there's the lower taste and the higher taste. You want the taste like the hogs and the dogs, and the pigs, you know, you want the taste like that. They eat stew. Or do you want the higher taste? There's a higher taste which comes. You know, do you want the halava or do you want the stew? You know, any sane person will want to have the halava, you know, and something with ghee and nice sugar and tasty. So the same way, people like smoking and drinking and gambling, we have to understand these things. This is the lower taste, you see. This is the platform of sense gratification, keeps you in the bondage of material life. You have to take a miserable birth again in the next life. What will be your destination if you die like that? Gambling or smoking or drunk. People drink and they get drunk and they're driving and they crash and they die. What will be their destination? Not very good. They won't have a good destiny. We don't want that to happen. So people have to be a little thoughtful about life and understand the business of human life. That we have an opportunity, we've got something valuable, the human body. If we abuse it to just do things like smoking, and drinking and gambling, then you're wasting that opportunity. You're becoming completely bound by Rajagun and Tamagun. You're not going to get any. And if you die in that condition, then you take a body in Tamagun and Rajagun. You take a body in the lower species. So we should be thoughtful about these things. We should be very careful how we live, what we do. And if we waste this opportunity, then we're very foolish. We've been given something so valuable and we're not taking care of it. We're very unfortunate souls. So fortunate souls, they will not waste that opportunity. They will utilize their time carefully to hear and to chant, to use the human life for higher things, not for the things like smoking, drinking. That is just, that's it, like the pigs eating stew. It's the lower pleasure. We want pleasure, there's the higher pleasure. The real pleasure is in the soul, not in the body. People don't know what is real pleasure. They're thinking pleasure is holding the cigarette and putting it in their mouth and drinking. They're thinking this is pleasure. That is not real pleasure. That is the ignorance of the conditioned souls. The real pleasure comes from the soul. The soul's nature is Satchit Ananda. But the body's nature is not Ananda. The body's nature is near Anand. No pleasure, miserable. The body is temporary, the soul is eternal. The body is full of ignorance, but the soul is full of knowledge. But common people, they're not thinking about the soul, they're only thinking about the tongue, their senses. That is like the dog and the pig. They want pleasure, they want to enjoy the body. Human life is being wasted in these ways. So intelligent people, thoughtful people, they will not waste this human life. They will use it very carefully for the highest pleasure, to experience the highest pleasure. I have no regrets that I gave up material life to join the Hare Krishna movement. Because in Krishna consciousness, I'm experiencing much more pleasure than any of people who are not devotees. My old friends who are not devotees, they're still doing the same things which they used to do. They go to the pub, they drink beer, and they just waste their life. And sometimes even play some cards and watch movies. Their life has no meaning. They have no real pleasure. They're looking for pleasure, but they don't know the pleasure is within. The real pleasure is within us. It's the soul. And we have to awaken that pleasure. That is why Krishna consciousness has that power. It can give us the real pleasure, the higher taste. Right? We're looking for pleasure. It's like in the Himalayas, there's the musk deer. And the musk deer is always thinking, where is that smell coming from? He doesn't realize the smell is coming from within. That within the deer, there's a musk. And he's always thinking, where's that smell? So the same way, people are looking for pleasure. And they don't see the real pleasure is actually within us. We have to open the soul, become conscious of our spiritual nature. And that happens when you start to chant Hare Krishna mantra. You start to chant the holy name. Then you can experience the awakening of spiritual pleasure. But you have to take to the process, you have to do it regularly. You have to make a regular program, certain amount of time to chant. And you will see the effect. It's not a waste of time. Rather, it gives us the greatest pleasure. Okay, any other question? Yes, Prabhu?
Sometimes new people join to the spiritual way, and there is a time when they feel downfall on the spiritual way. So how we maintain consistency?
Yes, sometimes people fall away. You maintain consistency by association. You have to stay in the association of devotees, and you have to practice regularly. If you make a commitment to chant regularly and to associate regularly, then you won't fall down. The people who fall away are the ones who are not regular. They're not chanting. They're not following the process very well. So they fall away. But if we're careful, we stay in the association, we can protect ourselves from fall down. Maya is very powerful. Just like we know Bharat Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam, he had gone to the Himalayas. He got attached to a deer, and he had to become a deer in his next life. So how did he fall down? He was an advanced devotee. He gave up a lot to go to Himalayas, but he fell down. Why? Because no association. He was alone. He was in the Himalayas alone. So sometimes we think, oh, I can do it on my own better. But it's very dangerous to be alone without association. We don't notice our deviation. We don't notice how we're getting closer to Maya and how we're falling down. So that happened to Bharat Maharaj. He'd gone to the Himalayas, he got attached to a deer. The next life he became a deer. So we don't want to fall down. So we can avoid that by staying in the association. That's why I was saying association, very valuable to be in the association, devotees. So that is our good fortune, that you have nice association here. You come together and you have nice association to keep you all in Krishna consciousness. And certainly, as you go on in life, maybe at certain points you move away, you get married and you go and live with your family. You'll always remember the time when you were living here. and how nice and how spiritual, how satisfying it was to be here in the association of devotees. Yes? Any other question? So we brought some prasadam. I think.
Yes. Yeah. We will dinner prasadam for all of them after.
I hope so. We'll see how it goes. I hope so.
Yeah.
You have prasadam. Well, I brought some sweets.
So we'd like to thank Maharaj Ji for sparing his valuable time and sharing his realizations, his beginning days of Krishna consciousness, how he tried, how Srila Prabhupada Association helped him to become what he is today, and so giving valuable time to us is a great honor for all of us. We were not so fortunate to see and witness how Srila Prabhupada preached and how he lived his life in Krishna consciousness, but we are at least some fortune we have that we are able to associate with Maharajas who have direct association of Srila Prabhupada. So we'd like to thank Maharaji by loudly chanting 3 times. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! तो महाराज जी की ऐसी इच्छा है कि उन्होंने प्रसाद लाया है वो अपने हाथ से सबको
I hope so.
व्यवस्था होगी. We have dinner prasadam.
But
Will be distributing by your hands there.
Yeah.
Or we can distribute at the time of dinner also.
Yeah, you can do that also.
Because it will take some time also.
Yeah.
So हम लोग dinner के टाइम पे देंगे क्योंकि महाराज का टाइम नहीं जाएगा. तो dinner plate में आपको महाराज का प्रसाद जो है वो मिलेगा. अभी हम लोग 10 मिनट कीर्तन करेंगे और फिर प्रसाद रहेगा. महाराज को क्योंकि उनका स्वास्थ्य इतना ठीक नहीं है. आज सुबह उनका प्रवचन हुआ है, दीक्षा का समारोह हुआ है और काफी कार्यक्रम करके महाराज आए हैं.